Good afternoon, everybody. We are beginning another session of our Milo office hours with Rain. Welcome. So far, awesome. We have all of our registrants that we had originally. So I think we're going to have a good group of questions from everyone here. So I think
Well,
that we can go ahead and begin.
sounds good. Let me just confirm that you are seeing my screen.
Yes.
Great. All right. So the purpose of these office hours, I'm really glad to see all of you here. Rain, I'm glad to see you as a repeat visitor because I've seen some good notes from you and your input. Every bit of input that we get is valuable because it helps us to continue to improve this tool. This tool is trying to offer a lot as simply as possible. So obviously your use and your feedback is extremely valuable in helping us to figure out where things can be adjusted or improved and where documentation needs to be produced. I also want to start out by saying I know each of you has been in the system and asking questions and is waiting for documentation. And I just want to apologize for my quietness the last week, which has been because I've been hugely distracted by the fact that a good portion of my family lives in Santa Rosa. So I apologize again for being somewhat less available. But that aside, the whole purpose of these webinars, of these office hour webinars, are to be as informal as possible and give you the opportunity to ask questions. And so it's good that we have 4 people. That's a really good number. And I'd like to just start out. Everybody's muted right now, I believe. But I'd like to unmute everyone. Actually, I'm going to unmute you one at a time and a sense of some of the questions that you're coming here with today so that we can figure out the best order to answer them. And some of you may have similar questions. So I'm going to start right at the top of the list that I have, and I'm going to unmute Bruce. Hi, Bruce. Can you speak so that we know that I've succeeded in unmuting you?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Great. Thank you. So if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick sense of some of the questions that you're coming to this office hours with.
Okay, I'm sort of an eavesdropper. We're going to sign up for
Okay.
the system, but we haven't yet. So I don't have too many questions other than I hope the thing works.
All right. Eavesdropper. All
Right.
right. It works. There's a lot of things that people are confused about exactly the best way to have it work, and a lot of people have found some interesting um, approaches that aren't necessarily exactly how it was intended to work, which is interesting. But so it's a new system, so everybody's learning a new system, which is
I do have a quick
always a
question.
challenge.
I,
Always a
I,
challenge. So yeah,
I
go ahead.
do I do have a quick question. It wasn't clear from when all the sign up information how much of setup is done when we first buy the system. Like for instance, do you copy all over things from our files directory and that we have in
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I'm gonna save that one for the end, because some of that question is more of a business question to go over with Amaris and Elizabeth over at LWVC. But if we have enough time towards the end of the hour, I will show off some of that, and it's actually probably advantageous to the others who are already using the system to see that as well, just to have an idea of, just to have even more of a solid idea of how the system's working. So even if you're already setting up your site, that info is still useful. So we'll try to address some of that towards the end, and then if not, that'll be one for you to take on further with Amaris and Elizabeth. Okay, so I'm going to mute you for now. Feel free to raise your hand when you have other questions or to type your question in as we go, and we will unmute everyone throughout. I'm just going to try unmuting everyone and see if it ends up being a disaster, and then I'll call on people. Okay, so I'm unmuting everyone. All right, so I just unmuted everyone. And unless we hear feedback, I'll leave you unmuted. So this, again, this is very informal, so people should feel free to speak up throughout. But I'm going to call on Ed to get a sense of what specific questions you brought today.
Yes. PDF versus HTML email.
Okay.
And
you mean as in newsletters?
yes.
Okay. All right. That's an interesting one. That's not exactly within the system. That's kind of separate, but we will definitely talk about that, because that's a good question in terms of outreach and how to best reach your audience.
Okay.
And what else?
And trying to get the newsletter on the menu.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the newsletter file on the menu.
Okay, so menu in general we'll go over, and we'll specifically look at what it is that you're trying to do. So that's let me just flag that menu. All right, and then I'm sure you may have more. We'll see what time we have. Let's call on Rain and see if there's something specific, Rain, that you would like to look at today.
I've got a few things. How do we share content to Facebook and Twitter, to social media?
Okay.
How do we edit the home page? I see the customized display, but I'm not quite sure what to do with that and what panelized means.
Oh, nothing. Yes, that's a good question. That's a UI thing that I need to remove. But yes. Okay. So editing the home page, that's definitely important.
And a real quickie, is there a way to make the submenu items stay visible in the menu?
Okay. We'll talk about that when we talk about the menu.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's more of a big picture question that I'll talk with you about why it's set up the way that it's set up when we get to talking about the menu.
Okay.
But there are big picture decisions that are ultimately going to need to be made by the Milo team based on a lot of different considerations. So keep open option. Okay, so anything else that you wanted to bring up?
When you're talking about the home page, how to put a graphic image like a join button on the sidebar.
Okay. Sidebar. I'm actually going to split the sidebar out into a separate topic because it is kind of its own element, even though you do manage it from the home page. Okay, so sidebar. And let's call on Jackie then and see if there's something specific you are hoping gets addressed today.
Yes. So number one is similar to what I think what someone else might have said. I figured out how to get issues to expand, but then I also have, like, I guess it would be third in. When you click on it, it does bring up the secondary issues, but it doesn't indent it in, and I've tried to get that to work, and it for me.
So third level menu items?
Yeah, I guess that would be a third level, yeah.
Okay. Well,
and then two, I was looking at, I was doing some searching, and I was looking at forms, and I can see other forms that other people have created. And I didn't want to play with anything, to mess up anything security-wise. So that was actually one question. One, can I mess up other people's security when I'm seeing other forms? And two, is there a way to copy those forms when it's similar to what we would want, like a membership form, that sort of thing?
Okay.
And
all
then,
right. Well, those are some good and fun questions. Okay.
And then I see subscribe on, and I don't know if that is working right now or how to get that to work. I assume the objective is if someone wants to be notified if something new comes on that slide or page, I should say.
Are you talking about, just to make sure that I understand what you're saying, are you talking about the RSS icons?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so so we'll talk about what RSS is.
I know what RSS is. That's what that is. Then, but yeah, go ahead and talk about it. But it's on other would be feeding onto that page, and so that's why I didn't know if there was another purpose somehow. But if that's all it is.
Where else are you seeing subscribe other than the RSS icons?
No, it's more the pages that it's on that it seems strange. Let's see here.
You mean like? Okay, well, I'll explain when I explain what RSS is. I'll explain why you see it where you see it as well.
All right.
And then yeah.
I'm going to stop with that because I figured that's more than enough. I personally am going to have to leave like before the program is over, but I'll be listening on my phone as long as I can.
Okay, good to know. So we'll try to address some of your questions early on as well. So knowing that Jackie needs to leave, I'm not necessarily going to go in the order that we just spoke, but I think that the best place to start is to look at the menu. Because I think that's actually, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I'm going to start with the home page because that's where the biggest kind of impact on your site is going to be had, and in terms of making your site lay out the way that you want it to. So I'm in production. Production means the live actual Milo system, but I'm logged in as a webmaster of this demo local league, which is kind of a demo league that we've been using, and so I can kind of do whatever I want with it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start by just looking at the homepage and how the homepage works. There are a couple of videos that support what we're going to look at, but I'd like to kind of more specifically address what you might want to do with your homepage. So not looking at the sidebar, because the sidebar is, in a way, its own element, even though it's managed through the homepage. Looking at just the homepage itself, there are three aspects to the homepage, to this content area. The first is the slideshow. The second is the body of the homepage. And in this case, I embedded a video in here because that's there as an example. It's not something I would actually recommend that you do. It's just there as an example to show that that can be done. And then the next component of the page are these pieces of content that are being auto-fed into the homepage. So in terms of how the page is built, it's built dynamically. From two of these elements are built dynamically. The slideshow is built dynamically, and this kind of river of news is built dynamically. You don't actually edit anything on the homepage to make those items show up. You edit them on those pieces of content, not on the homepage. And that's what might be a little bit confusing and different from normal. This part is the only part that is actually managed by the homepage itself. And so that's the group here. So you wouldn't want to, I need to remove this icon for your user type. But what you are interested in are the published view and then creating a draft. And what that's going to give you access to, let me open this up here so that we can see it. That's going to give you access just to this portion right here. So if I, for example, don't like having that video there, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, I'm going to go ahead and remove that element that is the video. And then maybe here I just want to add another paragraph of text. So I'll go ahead and do that. And notice I've given it, I usually like to give the opening paragraphs on the homepage of a league site this special styling from this menu here, because it just gives it a nicer, larger font, so it just looks a little bit more interesting. So if I make those two changes, ignoring all of these collapsed elements here, and then I'm going to go ahead and set this to published, Now what I've changed here is I've gotten rid of that video, and I have that new paragraph that leads into the actual page itself. If I want to change the slides or what content shows up here, that's going to happen in a slightly different way. So I'm just going to check. I see questions. I think somebody is asking if this is Rain or Elizabeth. This is Rain who's talking, just to make sure everyone's clear. I apologize. And so that's the only question that I see so far. So now let's talk about this slideshow up here at the top. So the slideshow at the top is managed by creating slides. Now I already have one slide in here, and if I go under Manage Content and then filter to just see slides, now I see that slide here, so I could edit that slide if I wanted to. The slideshow itself is always going to show any published slide. Let me click on Edit here so that you can see the settings here. So it's just going to show any published slide. It doesn't need to be promoted to the front page. It doesn't need to be sticky. It just needs to be published to show on the home page. If the slide isn't published, then it won't show. So if I want to add a new slide, I'll just go ahead and do that really quickly. It won't rotate unless there's more than one slide. Another sample slide. I'm going to pull an image that's already been uploaded so that I'm not uploading a new image. And then I'll give it a caption. You don't have to do any of this. But if you wanted to link the slide to something, you can do that. I'll give it a caption. Now, this is important. If I set this to private, then it would only show up if the person were logged in as a member. So since there's not a lot of membership activity going on the sites yet, the functionality works, but there's not a lot of membership activity going on just yet. I'm not sure that you would be using that. But if it is set to private, it won't display unless you're a member. So you want to keep it as public, and I'll go ahead and publish it right away so that we can see this happen. Okay, so now if I reload the page, now it's actually a rotating slideshow. There's arrows to the left and right, and it rotates. Notice that the order shows when I loaded the page, it loaded this one first. This one came up in order because the order is always descending post date. So the date at which it was created, the most recent item is going to show up first. There is a way to tell something else to show up before that, which is to set it to be sticky. And this sticky status is also true for this list right here. So everything's going to show up with the most recent item first, unless you've set something to be sticky. So if you want something to be sticky, let's go ahead and go back to our content here, and we'll take a look at the slides. So we have that first demo slide that I created. I'm going to go ahead and edit that. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. And under publishing options, I'm going to set it to be sticky at the top of lists. And I'll just take that straight to published. Now what happens is when I reload the page, you'll notice that the wavy one will show up first, even though it's an older slide. And this is true for all of they're called views. Anything where you have kind of a list of content showing up. So this here is a list of content. The slideshow is a list of content. Your calendar, your articles, your positions, your action alerts, these are all lists of content. So anything that's a list of content, if something is set to sticky, it will rise to the top. And that's one way that you can control your order. The other way is knowing that everything except for events show up by post-date descending order. So you could, if the date that it was posted wasn't actually really important, you could actually fake it with a different date so that you can force something to the top just by saying this is newer content. And then that will reorder things as well. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So that's how you manage your slides up here at the top. Now, if you want to manage the content that shows up down here, you're basically doing exactly the same thing that we just looked at when we went and edited a piece of content and told it to be sticky. The only difference is that here, you're also telling that content to promote to the front page. So let's look at one of these articles. I'm going to create a new draft of this article here, and I'm just going to scroll to the bottom, and I'm going to show you under publishing options, promoted to front page is checked off. And if I wanted this item to be at the top regardless of its post date, then I would set it to be sticky at the top of lists. If I didn't want it to be sticky, but I did want to fudge the post date, maybe I want to say that it's a much older piece of content so that it drops down towards the bottom, I can do that under authoring information, which is where the date posted is located. So I can actually go in here and choose a different date. Again, if the date is important, you know, if you're posting some kind of an alert having to do with something that's happening right now, obviously you don't want that alert to look like it was posted in October of 2013, because then you have a discrepancy between the event or the thing that's going on with when it was posted. But if the date isn't important, you can fudge it as much as you want in order to get the order that you're looking for. But this is what's important here, is this promoted to front page will throw that item to the front page. Now, the other thing that's happening on the front page is when you actually look at the front page here, let me open up another tab, you see an image, and then you have what it is that we're looking at, and then you have this block of text. And this block of text is always going to be what's called plain text. It will not contain formatting in it. And the reason behind that is to prevent some really bizarre page layouts from occurring with strange formatting. But you can absolutely control what this block of text has in it. And the image you control by choosing the image that you put into this main image field. So for all of the content, there is a main image field. And if you use that, if you put an image in there, then that's what'll show. A small version of that will show here as a thumbnail. In terms of what shows up in this block right here, what it's actually pulling is something called a summary. So right here we have the body of this piece of content, and at the top, right above that body field, if you look, you see that link that's red that says Edit Summary. And if you click on that, now you have this box that you can put whatever you want in there. So the body of my piece of content here says in Latin, Aenean, Aelio, Quam. You could write completely different text. Of course, this is very close to what was already in there. So let's start with something a little bit different. So you'll start with Morbi-Leo. This summary will not show up on your main piece of content. It's what will show up in the list, whether it's on your homepage or in the list of calendar events. Anytime this content is listed somewhere as part of a collection of other content, it will use whatever you put into this summary field. So if I go ahead and save this now, let's just go straight to published. So now I scroll down to this article that I edited, and that description starts with that Morbi-Leo rhizus instead of what it was before. And if I click on the article, it still shows what was there before. It doesn't show the description that I wrote for that summary. So you can put whatever you want in there. I'm just going to make sure that there's no questions right now. Okay, so let me stop there and see if any questions have come up that haven't, since none have been typed in. I see a hand raised by Bruce.
Right. The question is that save the button that you pushed, in the previous Lou and then Voter's Edge and a bunch of other things, what typically the decision has been made to automatically save things because people sometimes move from a page and they ended up if it wasn't saved automatically, it'd get lost and stuff. So does that save actually do anything different than would happen automatically?
Oh yeah, you do need to save your content because you can edit. No, as you're editing, you need to save it when you're done editing, or that edit won't be kept. There's also something important to note that I know a lot of you have been working with. That's both frustrating and also meant to be really helpful for you. This is one of those kinds of extended functionality that adds complexity, but is very useful once you become familiar with it, which is that when you're editing a draft. You're not actually editing your piece of content itself. You're editing a new version of that content. So the content that your users see, the public content, won't be touched until you're ready for that to replace the version that you're working with. So for example, if I now want to go in and add a bunch of stuff here, let's say you know, I want to add a list here. I did. So if I'm going to add a list right here, and then maybe I want to make this a block quote, and I'll put in a header here just for extra formatting so that we can really see this. So now I've made a bunch of changes to this piece of content, and I go ahead and save it. If I go to the published version of this content, the version that the public will see, it still shows me what I had before. So it doesn't actually make any changes to what the public sees until such time as someone who has the authority to comes around and says, okay, this looks good, this is what I wanted this to be, and then they turn this into the published version, which you can do right up here. It says, you know, we're looking at the revision state we're looking at as draft. So I can actually apply published to it from right here, and that would do it. There's also a moderate tab where you can go in and you can see this is what the public is seeing right now, but this is the version that I want to replace it with, so I can apply from here. Or I could revert to a previous version if I wanted to. And then the other thing that the other place where you can set something to be published and actually replace what the public sees is if you're very confident when you're saving that page initially, you can go ahead and set your moderation state to published right before you save the piece of content, and then it'll replace the public one. So that was a good question, but the answer is no, it doesn't save automatically. That's a very potentially problematic functionality. So you have to definitely make the choice to save, but you can save at any point in time because you're not replacing what the public sees until you very intentionally say, I want to replace what the public sees.
You
and if
understand
you mess up, you can revert at any time.
You understand that people who've had systems like this for a long time have decided that the requiring the save option like that causes more problems than it's worth.
So that particular decision is a big topic of its own that I would recommend that you discuss with the Milo team because there are many implications in both directions. And saving automatically has implications that are also problematic. So that's a big discussion that's probably not really meant for this particular these particular office hours. But if you have any requests or ideas, it definitely bring them up in the Milo support the Google group, because there's kind of a constant effort to make this a better product. So anything that anybody brings to the table is going to be evaluated to see what can be done both for the budget and also for the, you know, with all of the various ramifications considered. All right. So, Amaris, unless you wanted to say something further to that, I'm going to move on.
Yeah, that sounds good. I will go ahead and forward the Google Group information to you, Bruce, if you'd like.
That's okay. I just was pointing out that for a lot of programs, this decision has been made the other direction. Over time, they switch from having the save to the other thing for a number of good reasons. Anyway, we don't need to discuss it here.
All right. Okay, so thank you. So moving on then, I'd like to take a look quickly at some of the questions that Jackie brought up because I know that she can't be here for the entire time. So let's talk really quickly about forms because I know that's something everybody is interested in. I'm going to be really brief on this because on the last office hours, we went in depth on it. So the last third of the office hours that we did almost a month ago now, I think, that video was recorded, that webinar was recorded, and you can go in and take a look at that to see how forms actually work. But very quickly here, I'm going to go ahead and just show you a form. So I think I have a form on here. Hopefully I did one for this particular one, but I can go ahead and do one of the other groups if not.
Yeah, this is Jackie. If you did do the form, I can look at that webinar. Maybe you could just address security questions.
Okay. Okay, so there were two other questions that you brought up outside of actually creating forms. One of the questions that you brought up was security, and the other one that you brought up was copying content. So as far as the security question goes, we recently, due to another issue that somebody brought up, we recently had to increase, we recently had to increase the edit functionality available to the League webmasters beyond what we had before. So we had things locked down so that you couldn't actually touch anything that was from a different group, but I had to increase it, and now you can actually touch things from a different group. That being said, you can't delete something from another group, so you're not going to delete it, and if you do make a change to their form, it's not going to be permanent. It can be immediately fixed, and it is tracked, and it's very unlikely that you would be able to do that. You'd have to kind of be a bit of an advanced user to go in and accidentally do something to somebody else's form. So as far as security goes, one of the things about this particular system is that everything is tracked. Everything is on some level recoverable, and who did what is tracked. So if there's any questions as to why something happened, then that person can be followed up with to say, okay, well, here's what was missed, or here's why it happened, so that we can address that usability issue. So what I'm trying to say is, don't worry too much about messing stuff up, because whatever you do is not going to actually really ultimately have any real impact. So that's one of the things about security. Now, about the forms themselves, in terms of what happens with the form and where that data is sent, you are able to set up whether or not it emails you or whether it stores that data. As far as cloning a particular item, like cloning somebody else's form or cloning somebody else's piece of content or one of your pieces of content, that is doable with all of your content. So let me show all content here. So if I wanted to take any piece of content here, this is a web form, for example. Actually, okay, so I told it not to clone web forms, so I can actually enable it to clone web forms, but we'll take something else, and if you think that we should have web forms be clonable, I can turn that on. It sounds like that would be useful. So I can turn that on so that you can clone web forms. And what happens when you clone a piece of content, so if there's, for example, this test article to delete, if I'm on my managed content list, I see this clone link. If I'm on the content itself, then at the top, it'll give me a link to clone it as well. Right now, Rainbow Bright is the webmaster of the Demo Local League, if I go to another league that I'm not a webmaster on, let's go to, oh right, Delaware is just one of the state. So let's go to Sussex. If I go here and I want to say clone public land use forum, when I clone this, what'll happen, so first it'll start as a new draft. I can now edit the title. I can edit anything that I want in here. But the important thing to note is that when you come all the way down to the bottom, it's only going to place it into the league that you belong. So that clone, that act of cloning, you're not going to clone it into somebody else's league. You will clone it into your league. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, so you can feel confident in cloning people's stuff. It's not, and for a web form, it's not going to clone people's, it's not going to clone responses. It's just going to clone the web form itself. Okay, so that's cloning content, which is what you asked with the word copy. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's talk a little bit about RSS and why it shows up where it does while you're here. So this is conceptually, this is kind of an interesting thing. All of the content on your site they're unlike on Milo, or sorry, unlike on Lou, where your content is just kind of blobs of information that gets printed on the page. Your content in Milo is little itty-bitty chunks of data that are grouped together to make a bigger piece of data. So, for example, an event, if we open up any event here, an event is a combination of an event date and time. It's got data about whether or not other leagues might be co-hosts of that league. There's a location field, there's the image field, and all of this data is completely broken up into small bits and pieces so that it can be moved around easily, moved between leagues, for example, moved from your league to an external site, such as you could have your RSS feed. You could give your RSS feed to a local library and then they could show your events on their calendar. All of the California leagues, there's an RSS feed that we've created for all the California League events that automatically feeds into the California League site so that the California League site is displaying all local California League events. So all of this is happening because every piece of content on the site is broken up into literally multiple pieces of content. So what that means is that some of the bits of content on your site, like your about page or anything that you come to where you have these tabs at the top where you can go ahead and edit it, is that these are kind of just blobs, content blobs. And then if you go into calendar, you see a list. This is a list of content. So this list is taking another piece or other pieces of content of a specific type and putting it together in summary form into another place. So if I want to edit what I see here, or what I see of this event on the home page, then I actually edit it by going to that piece of content itself, and then that change will filter through the entire kind of existence of that piece of content on the internet, as long as whoever's receiving it is set up to receive updates to content appropriately. So for that reason, these are what are called views. The view is a list of content. And any page that's made up of a view, a list of content, which would be your action alerts, your articles, your calendar, your positions, and your members only content, comes with an RSS feed. So this particular league, Demo Loco, doesn't have any positions yet, so there's an RSS feed with nothing in it. But that's when you see that little RSS feed icon, that's why you're seeing it. And if you provide that URL that you get from clicking on this, if, you know, if you, in Safari, I'm using Safari right now, and if I click on this, I get nothing. It's absolutely useless. But if I open this in Firefox, which has a built-in RSS reader, then I'll see nothing either, because there is nothing. But let me go to something that actually has data, and then you'll see that data in feed form. So now this is data that can be pulled in by somebody else. Does that make sense? Silence.
Yes,
So hopefully that's yes.
Yes, it does. It does. I did go back and look and see, you know, where the RSS feeds were, and it was in areas where you would want the possibility of other contributors to go to it. So thank you for explaining that.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad that makes sense. So let's now go to, unless anyone wants me to talk more about this particular question, I'm going to move on to the menu topic, which all of you touched. Okay, moving on then. So your menu is completely 100% customizable by you to a certain degree. And when I say to a certain degree, what that means is it was designed very specifically to, well, it was pretty much specifically by a decision from the Milo team, since we were moving people over from League EasyWeb and trying to add more features but not rock the boat too much that it would be difficult for people to move. It very specifically is that left sidebar that you have from League EasyWeb. Now, in future iterations of Milo, as it improves, we might look at presenting it on top with hovers, or allowing you to choose which way it goes. But as of right now, it's very specifically designed to kind of mirror the Loo model, where it's on the left sidebar and you have two levels. You specifically have two levels because the goal was to make sure that leagues really focus on a kind of a simplified architecture for their sites. So at the moment, which this may not be the answer that you want to hear, but that's why the feature set of Milo is an open discussion, because as people are ready for the features to change, then that's when that's when that kind of thing can happen. And as we discover that you need things that are different from what you have, then that's when those things can be built. So as of this moment, it is set up the way that you have indicated, where it's all 2 layers deep. And let's go to, I don't know, well, actually we'll stay in demo local, but so there are 2 ways to get to managing your menu. One is through your administer league menu here. The first one is manage menu. The other is if you mouse over this gear when you're on your menu, you can list the links. And now this gives you the ability to add links to your menu, to reorder the links that are on your menu. So let's just kind of, this doesn't make any sense really in terms of structure, but I'm just kind of restructuring. I'm pushing some stuff into the second level. You can drag things around. You can disable items. Maybe I don't want the members only link showing right now. I don't want to delete it, but I can go ahead and disable it so that it's not showing up. And if I save this, I now have a much shorter menu. That members only one is disappeared, and I put a couple of things under studies. So now I have another layer here. It's not set up right now to allow you to auto expand. I can talk with Elizabeth, and I actually recommend that you put in a request to Milo and ask about that. Having the ability to set a menu item to be automatically expanded and to remain expanded by default that's something that we could look into as a feature. And so if that's something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend that you put in a ticket for that. And the easiest way to put in a ticket is to just email the milo@lwvc.org, and then it basically starts to become a ticket through that process. So right now, no, you can't go ahead and auto expand it. However, and right now it's set up to very specifically be 2 layers deep in terms of the menu system. So right now, what I would recommend that you do as a stopgap, if you're looking to have a 3rd layer, is to do what New Hampshire hasn't gone live yet, and I'm not logged in as, let me log in as New Hampshire. I'll just I'm logged in right now as an admin. So what we did in New Hampshire, because we brought over sites that had those menus, the anchor links up at the top, is we actually just kind of built those anchor links into a lot of the pages. Let me see if I can find one. I know there's a lot of them, so now I just need to find one. Let's try about. Here we go. So for your 3rd layer of navigation, you could make use of, like, just kind of create a menu at the top here. Now, to do this, I just used the notice style. When you click on New Draft, in here, you're not seeing this because I'm logged in as an administrator, so you don't actually see the styles right now. But if you were logged in, if we were logged in as you, as one of you, you would actually see that yellow box around this. And you'll notice in the styles drop-down right here, it says notice. So that's the style that I chose. And if you're using the WYSIWYG yourself, you probably saw that notice looks yellow. Let me go back to being somebody else. In fact, I'll log in as one of you. Okay, so if I'm logged in now as Ed, let me go back to, let me go to Ed's League. So, you know, if I wanted to kind of create another menu or anything, don't worry, I'm not going to save this. And so you won't have what I'm about to do on your site. But if I wanted to do something and put that notice style on it, I could do that right here. And so what I did with New Hampshire, because I was the one who migrated to New Hampshire stuff, is I just put the notice style around those anchor links to give it kind of a menu look. So that's kind of a stopgap that you could use for now if you're trying to put in a 3rd level. And you really want that. Now, the nice thing about still using a 3rd level when you're actually playing with your league menu, let me kind of talk about that. I'm not going to save this either, but if you did do a 3rd level, what you are doing, even though this won't display in the menu, you're still creating a URL structure. So oops, I just clicked on more than I wanted to. But so you're creating a URL structure. If we go to, I don't think you have any sublinks on here, but when you add something into a page, let's go to Oakland. Let me masquerade as Oakland here, because I was just doing this. So if I go in as Oakland, I have, I think it's under, where did I put it? Okay, so under voter newsletter. So voter newsletter is in the menu. This is not an organized menu yet. We're still just moving the content, but voter newsletter is in the menu. So the URL for it ends up being my.lwv.org/Oakland/voter, and it actually would be voter newsletter, but I haven't resaved it yet because that's what's in the menu. this item that goes under voter newsletter in the menu automatically takes that path from the menu. So it says voter newsletter and then voter archives because it's under voter newsletter. So it gives you that URL, kind of that way of orienting through the URL structure as well. And if at any point it turns out that breadcrumbs are something that should be added to the system, those breadcrumbs would come from that URL structure and that menu structure. So even if the third level isn't showing, it still does actually benefit you to put your item into that third level from a structural standpoint. Hopefully that answers that question. So I've
not quite. This is Jackie. I'm heading out the door, but on this, I get the third level to show. When you click on.
Oh, it is showing.
Show the third. It will show. So you can go to Fresno issues and go to land, or I think it was land use, and you can see my example. But it will show when you go and click on land use. It'll expand, but it's at the same indented level as land use. It'd be helpful if it was folded or indented in or something just to show it a little bit different, that something new came on.
Okay. So that's interesting because it's actually not supposed to show. So we obviously missed a little bit of CSS there. But I guess then the question is, let's just ask the people, since some CSS needs to be fixed here anyway, either we hide it or we indent it. Which would the people on this call get to choose? Which way am I going to fix it? Am I going to hide it or am I going to indent it?
6 to 9 p.m. Well, I go for indenting it.
All right. All right. There we go. You win because you're. So the reason why we weren't showing the third level was because we didn't want these menus to get too complex. But at the same time, those are choices that you're going to be making. So I will fix this issue by indenting them. I'm really glad you brought that up. Thank you. All right. So let's see. We talked about auto expanding submenu, which you're actually doing, Jackie, but we were hiding. That's functionality that we need to change to actually make that less hidden. If people want to do it, but it was intentionally hidden. So I'm going to talk with Elizabeth about what we want to do procedurally as far as allowing people to auto-expand those menu items. The other piece of the menu that was asked was Ed's question about adding the newsletter to the menu. So one of the things that I really want to emphasize here, I'm logged in as Jackie right now, so I'm actually going to switch back and log in as Rainbow Bright again. Because, and this is great. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we're having this office hours, is because those of you who kind of care enough to fight through it and then come to these office hours are probably also finding bugs, and we obviously want to fix those bugs. So this is exactly what we want. This is great. So let me go back to this. And Ed, as far as you adding your newsletter to your menu, so the menu is completely customizable also insofar as, oh, you know what, I know where you found adding that third level is, I didn't hide it from here. So I'll come back to adding the newsletter. Let me answer Rain's question, because as much as we kind of intentionally hid it from you, you do have the question, so you probably have a legitimate reason that you want to do it. So expanding, having that menu item be auto-expanded. So, studies, you just want that to be expanded right away by default when the user comes to your page. If we go to list links, and then I go to to studies here, and I click on edit on this particular item, one of the options that I have here is show as expanded. And then I'll save that. And now if I reload, if I reload my league, studies shows as expanded by default. So again, we hit it intentionally. So as you're making the choice to auto expand your menu items, please do so carefully, because when they get too long, it can be hard for users. But at the same time, you're asking the question, which means, you know, everything that we do for reasons of making it easier, you're still going to come back with very legitimate reasons to want to do it the other way. And we get that. So we won't say don't do this. We will say, well, here's why you might want to think about it, and then you'll say, well, I still need to do it, and then you'll do it. So that's totally legitimate. Okay, so moving on now to Ed's question about adding the newsletter on the menu. Let's go back here and list the links. So you can edit these items, you can link them, these items you can link to something else if you would like to. You can disable items, you can move them around. You also have two ways to add new things to the menu, and it can be anything that you want it to be. It can be something internal, it can be a PDF if you want, although I actually don't recommend linking directly to a PDF from your menu. Or it can be to something external. So let's say I wanted to link to Google. I would click Add Link right here, Google, and then the path. You need the full URL, and actually at this point you should be putting the S in as well. So you put the full URL, including the HTTPS, and then you indicate where in the menu that link should go. It can be a sub item, or it can be a top level item, and then you save it. Once you save it, you can now, if you want, go in and adjust where it goes, because right now it's attempting to figure out where it should go alphabetically. Everything's kind of all over the place now, so that alphabetization is a little questionable. But it attempts to figure out where it should be. So now I've just added a link to an external page. I can also add a link to an internal page here, but I need to know the URL. So if I wanted to add a link to a PDF, for example, I would need to know the URL for that PDF in order to link to it. So if I go to Manage Files, and right now I'm looking at my files. Here's a JPEG. I'll go ahead and link to that. And I'm just going to right-click on the link here, copy link, and then I'll paste that. So this is actually going to take me not to the actual PDF itself. It's going to take me to the file. If I want the URL for the PDF itself, I'm going to come over here and then right-click on the file, or if it's a PDF, it'll just be the name of the PDF, copy image address, and now I have that URL that I can use to link directly to the image itself. Link to an image, and now I can go ahead and save that, and now I have a link to an actual image, which again, I don't recommend that you link directly to an image. I recommend that you link to the page, so where this URL took you, which takes you to a page that has that file on it. Because your main menu, if your main menu links to a PDF, that could be confusing for your users, especially if your users are coming from mobile devices or something like that. Now they're linking to something that isn't a website, they're linking to something that's a PDF file. That can be kind of frustrating. But you could link to anything you want from in here. Now the other place that you can add something, add a piece of content to your menu, is from that piece of content itself. So if I go to this article and I want to add it directly to the menu, I'm viewing the draft, not the edit draft form, so I'll edit this draft. and scroll down here to the bottom, and I can add it to the menu from here as well. Does that answer your question, Ed?
I hope so. I'm going to take you a while to digest that.
Well, this is being recorded, so you can watch this.
I know.
This was the last 10 minutes. You can watch it again. Yeah.
I'll be looking at it.
The other thing is there is a video in the help documentation. I don't think I set this up to be able to add automatically to the menu. No, I didn't. Okay. Because we didn't want to automatically allow these things to be edited, or added, but I just wanted to see if I did. So there's also a video on working with the Leagues menu. So you can take a look at that as well. So there's a help documentation and a video that's linked also. So that will hopefully help you also. We have reached 4 o'clock. So I don't know, Amaris, are we, and Ed, you're the one with the PDF and HTML emails, the newsletters. Are we okay to hang out a little bit longer, or do we need to stop?
I feel that we could at least finish off with the last few questions that Ed has, because I think they'll be beneficial to have in the recording.
Okay, great.
I also would like to continue because we haven't really gotten to sharing content to Facebook or
Right.
Oh, yes, okay.
or to the sidebar issues.
Oh, yes, great, okay. So much to talk about. All right, so sharing content to Facebook is actually meant to be really easy. I'm not sure if you have specific questions about it, but basically you can set up your content. All of your content has share icons on it, unless somehow they've disappeared. Yep, so there they are right there. So once you have your page up, you can click on the share icon. Here I am demoing, but I'm, okay. Oh, actually, what I just did accidentally, this is a good thing for you to know about. So most browsers now have a kind of bare bones read view that you can use, and this is kind of an accessibility thing since a lot of people now come to content through other devices, not just through the browser. This also gives you a sense of what Facebook or Google Plus or Pinterest or other tools see as kind of this reader view. Let's see if I mouse over this, it says show reader view. And this just shows you what this piece of content looks like if you're not in the web page itself, the content on its own. That's a good way for you to get a sense of how your content will share. So let me go into a different, my computer I think is a little bit taxed right now because I had a lot of stuff open for a while. So now you share widget. This is interesting. It was working. So why is it not working right now? Because I'm demoing it. Okay, so I obviously need to look into why the share widget isn't working, because you should be able to literally just click on that and it should allow you to share. So I think what's happening is that our share widget is hiding under other content, and so I need to fix that. So I'm not going to spend there it is right there. I'm just going to do something really quickly to see if don't worry about what I'm doing right now. This is not something that you're going to do. Let me just see if my theory is correct as to why this isn't working. No, okay, so something else is going on. So I suspect that this has to do with the internet switch to HTTPS. But what you should be able to do, and what we now know there's a bug on, so we will fix it. This was working last week, is you should be able to just click on share and then choose what medium you want to share your page through. And then it'll grab the image, it'll grab your summary that you created, Oh, I wonder. Yeah, no, that's not why. So it'll grab your image, it'll grab your summary, and if you set up, who am I logged in as right now? Oh, I'm not logged in. If you set up specific stuff that you actually want Facebook or other tools to grab in your metadata, it'll do that as well. So let me scroll down here, and I lied. You don't, as webmasters, you do not see the metadata tools, so I need to fix that. I'm loving this. This is great. Metadata is hiding. So what I'm going to do is show you the tool that you should be seeing by switching back over to being a, oops, switch back. I'm going to switch back over to being a full-on webmaster and just show you, or not a full-on webmaster, but a full-on admin, and show you the metadata tool that you should have. So here you should have this meta tags field right here in your tabs. So you'd have menu, authoring information, promotion settings. And then in here you should have this tags field where you can actually go in and set up what Facebook or Twitter sees and grabs. So if somebody uses that little share widget, or if somebody grabs your URL and goes to share that content somewhere, it'll grab either the defaults being the image that you put in and the summary that you put in, or if you went in to great detail and decided to customize what gets seen, it'll take that instead. And this is more advanced stuff that you don't need to worry about because it does have logical defaults. But it is something that you will be able to do as soon as I make sure that you have the right permissions, because that's just hiding from you because you don't have the right permissions. So that'll show up pretty quickly. By early next week, it'll definitely be there, and you can really futz whatever it is that you want Facebook or Twitter or something else to see. Now, the other thing that you should know is that anything that has an RSS feed, and you know, I used to use, I want to copy the link, I used to use a specific tool to subscribe to Facebook that is gone now. So I need to look up the help documentation and then create help documentation for you on how to use an RSS feed to automatically have stuff to post to Facebook. But you can do that. You know, if you but if you just want to put a link in, it'll take some smart choices. So if I take this link, if I'm here on Facebook and I put the URL in, it's going to grab the information that it can about that event. And then now that it's grabbed this piece, now I can write whatever I want in here and post it, which I'm not going to do. But but you can do that as well. But you can subscribe. Cancel this. Cancel this. Okay, so you can subscribe. You know, Facebook, and I'll research it separately. I'm not going to, you know, I'm kind of tempted to do it now, but I won't do it now. There are many ways that are kind of constantly changing that you can subscribe your Facebook page to an RSS feed to automatically have items that you post go to Facebook without you even having to do the work. Okay, so that's the sharing component. Rain, thank you. You caused us to find a bug, which is great. And that bug will be fixed pretty quickly. So for your own reference, all you need to do when you save is click share. Right now, share is not responding to the click, so I just need to fix the fact that it's not responding to the click, so I'll fix that pretty quickly. By the way, if you guys find things that aren't working right, post them as tickets because we'll fix them really quickly. You know, this is an ever-changing thing, so don't hesitate to say, this seems wrong, it's not working, and then post about it. Going on then to the question about the sidebar. So you can put anything that you want into your sidebar. This is the sidebar here. And that's going to happen on your home page. I'm on the state. I'm actually no longer logged in as Rainbow Bright, so I need to be. Okay, so now let's go back to demo local so that we're using the correct league here. Okay, so you can put whatever you want into the sidebar. In here, I've actually put a couple of Twitter widgets, just to, sorry, not Twitter, Instagram widgets, just to show that that embed code works. This is going to happen on your landing page. You'll click on New Draft. You'll scroll down. There's a section here, Sidebar Content, that you can expand. And then in here, you have this WYSIWYG that you can use to put anything you want. So you could put a bunch of text in there if you wanted to. You could put a title in there. You could put a button in there. Let's say that you want to link this to something. Let's link it to the About page. Scroll down there because that jumped up. And then if I highlight it and choose Style Button, now it'll make it look like a button. So you can put kind of whatever you want in here. You were talking about, I think you were talking about a join button.
Right.
So what you can do also is you can upload an image that you could then link. Or if you want, you could look first and see maybe there is an image already. And there are a couple of images. So we'll go ahead and just choose one, make use of it. And then once you've chosen the image, you can then click on it. If it's highlighted like that, then it's selected. You can link it, and it's still linking to that that other page that I had. But let's link it to, actually let's link it to the About page. That's fine. But you can search for your content when you're linking. It's kind of messed up right now because I'm jumping really quickly. But if you go nice and slow, you can then link it to whatever you want. And let me remove one of these, or actually, yeah, I'll just remove one of these widgets. But I want to show you that underneath, so there's this kind of free-form field right here that you can put whatever you want into. And then if you wanted to add some embed code, like let's say you have a MailChimp newsletter sign-up form that you want to add, then you can click on Add Third-Party Embed Code, and it gives you a little box that you can paste your embed code into. And then you can, under that, you can add more formatted text if you wanted to. So you could add another button if you wanted for, maybe you want to add Facebook. Let's see what we can find for Facebook graphics. There's a lot of Facebook graphics. Use that one. Just a minute. And then you can link that to Facebook. You can use the styles to format it. There's, in those formattings, there are center and then floating images to the left and right. So you do have those options as well. I'm not actually going to save this because this will look really messy. But once you add all of these items, if later on you decide that you actually want that Facebook icon to appear above the Instagram item, you can just drag it up and drag things up and down to reorder them as well. So now this is on top. So that's how you would play with the sidebar. I'll be creating a video on that if I haven't already. Maybe I already have. Let's quickly go to the documentation and see if I have a sidebar video already. Okay, I don't. I thought I did. Maybe it's in the, there might be something in the home page. There's a video for the front page. Yeah, managing your league's home landing page. There might actually be something about the sidebar in here in this video as well.
There is some stuff.
Okay. Okay. So it's changed a little bit since the video was created, so I do need to remake that video. but the ideas are pretty similar. Okay, so let's talk about PDF versus HTML email. This is not actually really in this system. So if you're talking about newsletters, it's a I guess I want to be diplomatic and not say what I'm about to say, but I am going to say what I'm about to say. It's a bad idea to send PDFs around in emails as a way of sending out a newsletter. PDFs they're not responsive, they're not accessible, they're not mobile friendly. Responsive often means mobile friendly or encompasses mobile friendly, but it means more than that. It also means, you know, somebody's using an Apple Watch, for example. A PDF won't be any good for them. And while that sounds silly to be thinking about that right now, it's actually really not. For league traffic, you're probably about you're probably about a quarter to a third of your traffic comes from mobile and the rest comes from desktop. But the average now on the internet, the scale has actually shifted, and the majority of web traffic on the internet is mobile, not desktop. So over the next couple of years, league traffic is also going to catch up with that, and most people will be coming first to your sites through mobile devices. So I know leagues have a very kind of long history with amazing material, a lot of which the only really good way to present that material was through PDFs. So you have a rich history of PDFs, and you're going to need to be able to still provide those to people, because a lot of those PDFs are going to be valid for people for a long time to come. So that's why we made sure that PDF functionality was solid in this system, but we're also really trying to steer people away from using PDFs, because in the future it's just not going to be a viable delivery mechanism for content. There's people fighting, you know, Adobe's fighting this like crazy because Adobe's behind PDFs, and they're trying to kind of release all this new cool ways of looking at PDFs. But if you look at what happened with Adobe with Flash, where they were trying to get people to use Flash on the internet, but Flash was also not an accessible, adaptable medium, and it was replaced by HTML5. That might be more technical than you want to hear, but basically the harder these companies that have these kind of proprietary things that they're putting out, the harder they try to kind of stick to them, the more the kind of technology says, no, that's not going to work, and then tries to find something that's more adaptable. So as hard as it is and as frustrating as it is, and I get it, it's really frustrating, I know myself, because sometimes just making a PDF is just the easiest way to go, and you don't have a lot of time. Moving away from that at this point is really important. So when you're thinking about how to put out your emails, your newsletters, using a tool will be really helpful to you. There are some great tools out there. There's MailChimp and Constant Contact, both of which are really good. And they have a lot of pre-built templates that you can use to make things, to make your emails look great. And what it means is that your email goes out, you have a mailing list, you have a list of people that are subscribed to you. You're following all of the laws, all of the email laws, so you're not going to get into spam land or be blacklisted. And then you know when you're getting bounce backs so that you can remove those people, because anytime you get a bounce back from an email that you send out, it moves you more towards a blacklist. So you can remove those people so that you don't continue getting bounce backs. So that's really good. And then the other really nice thing about something like MailChimp or Constant Contact is that they also, whenever you send an email, they automatically create a web viewable version of that email. So so you always have a link that you can put to your newsletter, and it's stored on their system in their nice layout, so you don't even need to worry about it. And all of the tracking for who's read your email and what click-throughs go through it, and all that stuff happens in that service. let me just show you. I'm going to go to MailChimp really quickly. I have a brand new account that I just created for a scholarship that I run. And so we just moved the, I'm just moving it over. So it's really empty right now. And this should probably be its own like webinar or something. Reese, this is a huge topic. I can't really teach you how to use one of these systems in this, but I can quickly just kind of show you what this looks like. So this is brand new. I just have subscribers. I don't have anything else in here. But if I wanted to start creating templates for emails to send out, there's all these templates that already exist. And I can really quickly say, okay, you know, this looks like a good starting point. I'll use this. And now I can just grab an image, and I can drag and drop, but I can also, I think, did I put it on the desktop or did I put it here? So, you know, I could just grab this and start building my template from here. This is a large file, so it's going to take a while for it to upload. So this might not be worth watching. But you get the idea of how quickly I can create something that looks nice. Well, okay, I guess that worked. And then I can quickly create something that looks nice. I can, and then I can test it and I can send it out. And then when I do send it out, there's also this view this email in your browser link. And I don't know if this, yeah, it's not going to work right now because I haven't sent it yet. But this gives you then a permanent link that people can access for that newsletter, and it'll have all the tracking that goes with it. So I hope that answers your question about PDF versus HTML newsletters. I would strongly encourage you to try to set up a service like this. I think MailChimp is free for up to 2,000 users. A Constant Contact, a certain amount, I believe, is free as well, and then it starts to cost a little bit of money. But it's always worth talking with these kinds of places and seeing if they can give you a free account as a nonprofit as well. I see a question that I missed.
I think that was.
It's just you. Okay.
Can I, Rain? Would it be possible for you to do a little blurb or write something about what you just said? Because I'm not responsible for the newsletter. There are other people in the league that do that. But to be able to explain to them the way you just did why we need to move away from PDFs would be great.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if I already did it or not. I have so much documentation that I'm working on, so I don't actually know what I wrote and what I didn't.
Oh, I see. Options.
Yeah, but I don't know if this talks about PDFs. Okay, I guess it does talk about PDFs a little bit. I don't know if it goes as much into depth as I just went. So I should probably come back to this and maybe just be a little bit more informative about why PDFs are problematic. But
that would be great.
But yeah, there is this document here that you can start with, and I'll continue to improve it as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so I believe I got through all the questions, and we found a lot of bugs, which again is great. I know that sounds horrible, but it's actually exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for. We're looking to make the system really work well. There's so many moving pieces, and it's just a matter of of getting this to be the system that you need it to be. So please keep giving the feedback that you've been giving. Even if you're not hearing a response, there's kind of a workflow that has to go into all the responses. So if you don't hear a response right away, or even if we say, no, it doesn't do that when we do respond to you, that doesn't mean that whatever you said is being discarded. It's all going into considerations for how to improve the system. So this is very, very useful. Any other questions? No? Okay, it's just the two, Irene and Ed, it's just the two of you. So.
Can I ask a quick one then?
Yeah.
When I've figured out the moving the PDFs from Lou to Milo, but once that is done and once that's on that new page, once Lou is closed, it will automatically go to the new links.
Yeah, so whatever the links are from the page that you've been working on, let me switch back to being Eleni, because I just actually moved some of hers. So if I go to Oakland and I go here, so this page here with her newsletters matches the voter newsletter page here. My browser is obviously very slow right now, which the share widget might be working, and I don't know, because I'm just having browser issues because I have so much going on right now. But okay, so here's the page on old Lou, and here's the page on new Milo. It's the same page, which is, I just moved the content, but if I mouse over the URLs or the links here to see where they're going, can you see it's very small, but down in the very bottom left corner of the browser, it's showing you the path.
Right.
Do you see that?
Yes, I can.
So there it says LWV Oakland files voter blah blah blah. That means that this PDF that this is linking to, it's actually it's not physical, it's digital, but it is a physical digital file located on a server. And the server that it's located on is the server that's pointing to LWV Oakland, that lwvoakland.org is pointing to right now. So if I just copied this and had the same link over here, it won't move the file. The file itself is a physical piece that the HTML page, this page that's displaying here, is referencing. So it's on the Lou server. It's not on the Milo server, which means that when LWV Oakland switches over to Milo, these links will break.
Right.
Links will not work anymore. So what you want to make sure is you just want to check after you've done the work here. You want to mouse over these as well and make sure that what you're seeing down in the bottom corner is my.lwv.org.
That shows up, but I guess my question is, I used the names that showed up in my Lou files, but are not necessarily what you're going to see on the context. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter what the words are that the user sees here.
Right. Okay. Good.
All that matters is that link down at the bottom, and you can actually test it. Like if you click on this and it opens something, then you're good.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
If it doesn't, then you're as long as it opens something that has my.lwv.org in the URL. If it opens something that has lwvoakland.org in the URL, now you have a problem.
Right.
But
okay.
As long as it says this, then you're good.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. Moving the whole files thing is a scary one, and I know somebody is going to forget or not realize that they need to move their files, because that's a hard concept, because you think, especially if it's an image, you see it here, so it must be here. But the image could be anywhere on the internet. It's a physical file. So
I have to, I didn't know I had to do it for images, because the images don't have the Lou.
Right. No, the images live. They are physical files as well. They're physical digital files. Weird to think of them as physical, but they are digital files that exist somewhere, and they have to be reachable in order to be displayed.
Actually, I think all the images I've used so far are ones that I've uploaded myself, so I didn't move them over.
Great. Yeah, that's a really good question. I should probably make sure that there's a documentation page on that too, although I don't know anybody would want to watch that. So I'll just try to get the message out to people as much as I can.
Very good.
Yeah,
This has been very, very helpful.
okay, good. I'm glad. And please don't stop asking the questions that you've been asking. They're great. They're really helpful.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Great. Thanks. Have a good
Everybody so
weekend.
much.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Where am I here?
Dan-